Ow! 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 God, that hurts! Ow!
I know, Brett. And you've been making those noises for 45 minutes, but we're getting close to the show.
Can't stop, won't stop.
Strap
Oh,
on a
God.
tourniquet. God.
You know what hurts more than anything?
What?
It's demoralizing. That's the worst part. I can handle physical pain, John.
Yeah. Is it like the fear that you'll never get it out of there? Is that the fear? You see what I did there?
No, that sounds like pooping, John.
How you doing, Brett?
I'm trying to make anything work.
I hope we did the garbage person intro last time, right? We have that. I think we do. Yeah, I see a nod.
We have it.
We do. Good.
You can
Okay.
never have something like that. You can never possess it. Don't you see?
Brett,
Yeah.
I'm so happy that I'm not gonna be working next week. It's
Oh,
so
really,
awesome.
John?
It's
Oh, you're
so
gonna be
awesome. It
working.
never happens anymore. But
You're gonna camp? Are you going camping?
I'm going to Yosemite, but not camping.
Oh, that's nice.
I'm just gonna not be here in the.
Wait a minute. Can you please clarify one thing to me, John?
What's that?
Are you going to Yosemite or are you going to Yosemite? Yo.
Whichever's cooler, and whichever has an open Airbnb.
Yosemite is the reincarnation of Sammy Davis Jr.
Like his new show.
Yosemite, babe. How are you? Oh, cuckoo, ka-choo, babe.
Oh my God.
Does anyone else? Any other Rat Pack figures you want me to do an impression? Actually, I do a pretty good Joey.
That's
Bishop.
really the one. Yeah. What do you got?
Joke. I'm the funny one, but kind of.
I don't know as much about the Rat Pack as you apparently do. Okay.
Did you know that Ocean's 11 was based on a movie starring the extended Rat Pack?
Yes,
Matt Damon.
Hey, Matt Damon was in the original too?
Yeah, he was in the original.
Damn. Was that before Rounders? Because
it was the same. It was Marissa was Rounders 2. Is that what you're saying? It happened during Rounders 2. World War 3, World War 2.
Is there Rounders 2?
If
there is, I'm very excited to watch it.
I'm just kidding. She was telling us.
I thought they were gonna do that. I think they were gonna do that. Rounders 2.
God, if you're on the panel and you look around and you can't find out the sucker, if you're in the cemetery, if you're in the Arlington National Cemetery and you look around and you can't tell who's the sucker, it's apparently, according to my president, the dead soldiers are the suckers. I think that's in Rounders 2. World War Rounders.
If you can't tell which of our venerated dead is the sucker, it's probably you.
Suck it, losers. That's how I feel good about myself.
Wait, they wouldn't make a Rounders 2 because they only do sequels that have car chases and superheroes? That's what Matt Damon said? That's not true. They do other sequels.
Yeah, like Jaws.
They should do, they should wait like another 10 years and then do like a Cobra Kai, but for Rounders. Or now they're elderly. I'd watch that.
I just want to say I had played Texas Hold'em before Rounders came out.
Nobody had.
No, I did.
30 seconds.
My brother and my brother had the seniors at a card table at Mikey's house. So I'd go, and I was the younger one, and I felt pretty cool about myself.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. The time approaches.
God, I get nervous, but I always do the same thing. Kegel exercises.
Yeah.
That's how I relax.
You got the wound pinched off? Hello and welcome back to another day here at the Damage Report, closing out the week strong, as we always do, with Brett Erlich. Brett, how's it going?
Yeah, I've been better.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
I have been better, but also, you know what? You know what makes me better? The
What?
people watching this show, John.
Mm-hmm.
Those folks
They're
who
okay.
give me
They're
attention, which I much like chlorophyll changes sunlight into ATP, John.
I knew
take-
that.
I
I
take
knew
your
that.
attention and chemically alter it into energy. So,
Oh my
so
God.
please,
Yes.
please look at me. My book. Read my book, Brett Erlich. Please look at me.
You gotta
Tales of
write
a
that book
minor
now.
league cable sensation. Oh, I've touted that book for a decade, John.
Oh, Tales of a Minor League Clout Chaser. You gotta write that, man.
Oh, minor league cable sensation.
There you go. So we and commercial star. So we're learning a lot today about chlorophyll. I'm also learning that I decided, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm in this big studio. We got all this awesome equipment. Why am I using cheap headphones when I could plug in one of our awesome IFBs? And I'm quickly realizing the sound quality is not nearly as good. So now I regret this decision, but we're going to go with it because we don't have a lot of time. If you are joining us now, you definitely couldn't have heard our conversation before the show because our mics were cut off, but we were talking about how Brett and I both think it's time for Rounders 2, and it made me think, I don't know if anyone would find this interesting at all, but I would be interested to see a compilation of the like pop culture things that spurred a lot of interest in something, like how Rounders made Texas Hold'em like the only way you play poker, like how Karate Kid led to the explosion of karate in America. I wonder what other things there are like that. Brett, you should do a roundup for CBS.
I want to do. You earlier said a mashup kind of Cobra Kai and Rounders, and you know what the title would be?
What?
Hit me.
It's not blackjack though. Okay,
Oh,
we're gonna work on.
God.
We're gonna work
They
on.
only play one game. I love watching. They have like poker games on that you can watch on TV, and they're wildly entertaining because people are keeping secrets from each other. They try to do that occasionally with blackjack, and you're just like, we might as well play Russian roulette to see who's the luckiest. Like,
I mean, that would be more exciting. And the way America's going, it's probably about a year or two off. It'll probably be on FXX, if I had to guess. Anyway, Brett, thank you for joining us. You know why we need you here for everything that you just did, but also because we cannot do our Garbage People of the Week without you. So we are going to be closing out the show with that, so stick around. I've got mine. I have no idea who Brett's is, and the TDR community, the Dragon Squad, has chosen their Garbage Person of the Week as well. So we will... I just saw a super chat from Jesse, the vegan miner, that says chlorophyll, more like borophyll. Brett, you got to up your science fact.
Chlorophyll doesn't exist, you idiot.
Okay, we'll tell it to Jesse, the vegan miner.
Who's the scientician now?
Oh my God. Okay, so here's what's going on. We're going to be talking about a variety of stories, including a potentially foiled potential copycat of what happened in Kenosha about a week ago. We're going to have that for you. We've got our Garbage People. We're going to be reflecting a little bit on the pandemic and where we think things go from here, just briefly. But we are, of course, going to be talking about the losers and the suckers and all of that. But if you're here already and you're watching, please hit the like button, share the stream, let people know that this whole thing is going on. I don't know what the YouTube algorithms need, but this is what we've got. So let's start clicking things until it loves us again. And if you send in comments, tweets, chats, super chats, all of that stuff, we'll be responding to those as we go along. But with that, we do have a lot to get to. So Brett, why don't we jump right in? Okay, someone mentioned Happy Half Hour in the super chat. Who's on Happy Half Hour this week?
Michael Elizabethan Shore. I don't know if his middle name's Elizabethan, but
something like that.
He is fancy.
Yeah.
Michael Shore will be on the show, and next week Judah Friedlander. So let's just deal with that.
That should
let's
be
just
awesome.
let it soak in.
I hear he's still the champ, so
Yeah.
that's awesome.
I want to see if he's still standing for president.
Yeah. Okay. We'll see. But with that, let's jump into the news. Okay. We got a lot to deal with here, and it's gonna be a weird one. So hold on to your butts. Back in 2018, Donald Trump was supposed to go on a trip to the Aisne-Marne American Cemetery near Paris. Now, he didn't end up going, and they said at the time the reason is that there was bad weather, which stopped their helicopter from going to the site. Now, that never was a perfect explanation since multiple other world leaders took a car convoy out there. Presumably, he could have done that. But anyway, that story has a few other holes in it now, thanks to reporting by The Atlantic just yesterday, describing some of what Donald Trump had to say about the American soldiers, the vets who had lost their lives back in World War I, that he apparently didn't think was worth his time, saying in a conversation with senior staff members on the morning of the scheduled visit, "Why should I go to that cemetery? It's filled with losers." In a separate conversation on the same trip, he referred to the more than 1,800 Marines who lost their lives at Below Woods as suckers for getting killed. Now, there is a lot more to this. We're going to be going over not just the most recent comments about American vets and, our venerated war heroes that he's had to say. We have a lot that we're going to get to. Brett, when you first saw this story, the Atlantic news came out. Did you suspect that it might matter?
That it might matter? Yes, it does matter. That's I don't know what that's.
I think it's from Rounders.
It does
Anyway.
matter. Anyway, so yeah, no, I do believe I'll figure it out by the end of the day. Yeah, this absolutely matters. Donald Trump, what it exposes is the vast swath of military who now proven rightfully think Donald Trump is terrible. And a lot of Donald Trump supporters just assume that the military loves Trump because he's kind of a bellicose type person. But in truth, he is a jerkball, and he thinks this way not only about the fallen soldiers who gave their lives for freedom and this country, but he doesn't care about his own supporters who just buy all the crap he's hawking, hook, line, and sinker.
Yeah, and look, some of this stuff it's something, and we're going to go through past stuff he said. It is not inconsistent with the way he talks about soldiers and vets in particular, but certainly just the way he talks about the world. So we'll get to all of that. Let's give you a little bit more of what came out in the Atlantic's reporting. So bit of context on the site that he was going to visit. America and its allies stopped the German advance towards Paris there back in the spring of 1918. But Trump on the same trip asked aides, who were the good guys in this war? He also said that he didn't understand why the United States would intervene on the side of the allies. Now, I understand this is World War I, different context than other wars, but I love the idea that he has to have very carefully explained to him, he knows so little about particular conflicts that he has no idea why our interests would align with different countries, why we would support them. But this is the transactional way that he looks at the world. Yeah, he doesn't know anything. There are so many lessons from 1918 in particular that he could have learned hypothetically that he apparently has not, Brett.
Well, he hates communists.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. He should know this by now. He should, this is something that the person who is the commander-in-chief of the military should have some kind of knowledge of. That's the problem. He should have done his homework 3 years in and find out generally what, as the commander-in-chief, some kind of history. I saw a tweet that was like this and about other things. It's like, how can he fail history so badly while it's repeating itself? That's like failing an open book test. That was an amazing tweet, and that's what he does. And it reminds me of this sketch from Mitchell and Webb. I don't know if people know them. They do the show Peep Show, but they're a sketch duo originally from England. And they have this one sketch where takes place on a battlefield, and there are guys in uniforms, and they're in a trench kind of, more of like a camp, like an entrenched camp planning the fight. And the other one goes over and says, I've got a question. Are we the baddies? The other one's like, what do you mean, are we the baddies? Like, we've got skulls on our uniform. Skulls. I just don't. Lightning bolts and skulls. Are we the baddies? And that's how I feel in these situations. He's turning us into the bad guys. And when he looks back on, he very obviously absorbs everything that he knows about the world from pop culture. Even with that limited knowledge, he should know that what he's doing is making us the bad guys. Especially, like, why would you stop Germans?
I know. I wouldn't you love to hear him opine a bit on World War II? Oh, that would be
Let
something.
it go. Let the microphone roll.
Yeah,
But we do all
it's
the
like
time.
it's Trump history. Let's have that show. Trump history. I know he doesn't
Great.
drink apparently, but he's on something.
Trump
Anyway.
history. That's really great, John. I'll write that.
You should totally that would be good. Anyway, okay, so I want to give you a little bit more information. So Trump saying that 1,800 Marines who gave their lives in like we love to talk about why we engage in the wars we do now, but at least in some of these past wars, some of it seemed accurate. So hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds died. And he thinks they're suckers and they're losers. But it even gets more specific and personal than that. So according to sources with knowledge of this is a different visit, but this is him standing at the grave of Robert Kelly. So this is a soldier who died in Afghanistan. He turned directly to his father, John Kelly, and said, I don't get it. What was in it for them? Kelly, who declined to on the brief, understandably, initially believed, people close to him said, that Trump was making a ham-handed reference to the selflessness of America's all-volunteer force, like they're doing it, even though there's nothing in it for them. But later he came to realize that Trump simply does not understand non-transactional life choices. And that is so obviously true that we're going to have a debate about whether any of this is accurate or whatever, but whether it is or not, that is 100% true. Everything is transactional. His interactions with his family are transactional. So the idea that someone would actually give their life to protect another individual or another country, it fundamentally makes no sense to him. He simply doesn't have the capacity to understand those sorts of worldviews, those sorts of emotions. He just doesn't have it in him.
Right, because, and this is why I don't understand why religious people like Trump, right? Because religious people, the main like existential concept of that is that there's something bigger than you, right? There's something bigger than you. And for Trump, there's nothing bigger than him in his mind. The idea that there are causes outside of Trump that anyone could believe in, that Trump himself would believe in what America stands for outside of him. And we need that ability, even if you are largely transactional in nature. And that is appealing. I'm going to say that's appealing to a lot of his supporters, that he won't just pay in, I'm not saying that I support this, but they're saying, why are we paying into NATO if we're not getting anything in return? Why are we paying into the World Bank or whatever, world banking systems or anything like that if we're not getting anything in return? We are getting things in return, but at the very least, Trump isn't even thinking about what America gets in return. He's only thinking about what he gets in return in terms of support, which is kind of tangentially related to democracy as a concept. But like, he wants people to reelect him, and he wants fame and glory. And as he said, like, we'll keep the oil. He wants like plunder to contribute to his own personal wealth. And that is the breakdown that is among the 10 most troubling things about this story.
Yeah, and look, if there's someone out there that's watching this and thinks, okay, so he said some things, what do I care? This is abstract, transactional, this, blah, blah, blah. Okay, but understand that this has a direct effect on virtually everything he does as president. When a hurricane hits, and it hits a place like Puerto Rico that he doesn't care about, he doesn't feel any obligation, any sort of, like, I'm the president of all of America, so I need to protect them. That's not how he thinks about the world. The blue states that didn't vote for him, how many times has he implied that they don't deserve and shouldn't have the resources of the federal government, even during crises? This has an effect on how he views the relationship between him as president and the country, obviously. Now, to give you a little bit more information, and this is where it gets into weird stuff. Several observers told me, this is Jeffrey Goldberg, The Atlantic, that Trump is deeply anxious about dying or being disfigured, and this worry manifests itself as disgust for those who have suffered. In a 2018 White House planning meeting for such an event, this is a military parade that he always wants to have. Remember, he wants tanks and everything. Trump asked his staff not to include wounded veterans on grounds that spectators would feel uncomfortable in the presence of amputees. Quote, nobody wants to see that, he said. And as always, nobody or everybody means him. Like, he doesn't want to see it because he's terrified of this. He doesn't want to see people who've been wounded. You would think that would lead him to, for instance, safeguard his life by wearing a mask and not encourage the spread of a virus that'll kill tens of thousands. He'd see less wounded in that case, but he's found a way to square that circle. But anyway, this is apparently a big thing that bothers him. They go on to say he seems to genuinely not understand why Americans treat former prisoners of war with respect. He doesn't understand why pilots who are shot down are honored by the military. All of this, all of the giving of yourself for something larger than yourself, he can't understand. He says specifically, well, we got more that we'll get to at some point. The thing about
what's crazy is that he relies on that. He relies on others to make sacrifices for something larger than themselves. He just thinks that it's him. That thing that's larger.
He thinks that's worth it.
Yeah,
I guess.
And someone who's never put himself in that position, so how would he even know? Like, he keeps himself so far from consequence, always. And it's a system built to keep people like him safe. Like, as we're evicting thousands and thousands of people who can't pay their rent, every time people who've essentially gone bankrupt, every time he's gone bankrupt, he's like, oh, there's special laws for me, I'll be fine.
Exactly. Yeah, 100%. And we're not going to play. He gave a speech yesterday. We're not playing his thing about, he goes off for 2 minutes about the mini strokes and how they said he had mini strokes when they didn't. He did.
Like he's just talking about himself having mini strokes.
Yeah,
it sounds like he had.
He said, I don't know what they are. I'm not a doctor. Yes, I've watched a lot of House. I'm not a doctor, but I know what a stroke is. I know what a mini version of it would be. And he's the one that said it. So again, doesn't matter that he had mini strokes, but he definitely had mini strokes. But anyway, Ellie Mistal, who's been on the show recently, said, real Donald Trump's campaign has been, the president did not suffer from a series of mini strokes and has at no point disparaged dead soldiers or John McCain in the way we all saw him disparage John McCain on camera. Real strong post-convention pivot there, he tweeted, that's been the week since the RNC, was making everyone suspicious that he's had a series of strokes and attacking soldiers. So here's the thing. He obviously doesn't want you to believe that this happened. So we're going to get to his denial in just a second. I did want to just check in with the audience, read a couple of super chats before we move on to that. David, thank you for your super chat. Luis Lamp says TYT has the hottest mics. I assume that means the appearance of the mics because yes, my Yeti X is very hot. So thank you for noticing.
And my name's Brett, not Mike, but thank you.
Oh my God. Zane sent us in a super chat saying Rounders 2, Card Sharks versus COVID. That would be pretty good. Let's see.
I was afraid of literal sharks.
I think it might have actual sharks. Frojo Baggins says the part where we can't hear you before the show is the best part of my week. You mean the silence?
I like it. It's meditative.
It's important. Amazing. Yeah. Franklin Sharpslicer sent us in a comment saying, happy half hours coming fast. First appropriate people needing trashed. The Yosemite John can go where don't tell us we wouldn't know. Exit fast. Don't look back. Have fun. Thank you. Appreciate that. Miss Callie, thank you for your super chat as well. Over on Twitch, Skatari gifted a tier 1 sub to Wolves Are Lightweight. It's a good name too. Thank you for Skatari. Lynn on Twitch said, John and Brett, I just liked on YouTube. Thank you. I mean, if you're watching on Twitch and you want to go like on YouTube and then go back to Twitch, I got no problem with that. Mm-hmm. Trimu Batiki says, Brett, are you sitting at a stoplight? I think because of the lights around him.
I had some issues. Skype sometimes takes like 20 minutes to load on my machine.
Yeah.
So I'm over here. I think it's a Skype problem.
Okay, with that, let's continue with this, though, and read his perfunctory and non-convincing denial. Okay. Donald Trump doesn't want you to believe that the Atlantic's reporting that he called our former war heroes from World War I who had died in service losers and suckers. So here he is responding to the reporting yesterday.
General Keith Kellogg, who's a highly respected man, couldn't believe when he heard it. And he knows everything about all of it. And to think that I would make statements negative to our military and our fallen heroes when nobody's done what I've done with the budgets, with the military budgets, with getting pay raises for our military. It is a disgraceful situation.
Okay, so he says it didn't happen because he did something with a budget or whatever. And some general knows everything about all of it. So yeah, so why are we still talking about this? I'm convinced it clearly didn't happen, Brett.
Well, yeah, he raises military budgets fine. That money goes to contractors. They floated the idea of cutting health benefits to troops. So no. Also, you're on record disparaging people who have made ultimate sacrifices while you yourself have sacrificed nothing and pretend to be Saint Sebastian with arrows in your body, being completely pummeled with unfair words. Like, while sticks and stones may break his bones, words are worse.
Yeah, obviously.
That's him. He feels like he's a wounded soldier. He acts like it all the time. He's such a weak little bitch boy.
Okay, let's be careful.
And that's it. But yeah.
It is. Okay, so look, he denied it, but not just him. Kayleigh McEnany tweeted, I see President real Donald Trump consistently express his heartfelt gratitude and absolute admiration for our brave men and women in uniform. Just yesterday, he was truly humbled to be in the presence of our courageous World War II veterans. This Atlantic story is garbage. Nobody believes. I don't think Trump fans believe that he was humbled in the presence of those veterans. He doesn't have the capacity to be humbled except by his own perception of himself, maybe briefly. Anyway, so look, he says it didn't happen. She said it didn't happen. They've also said that Scavino and Stephen Miller, who were on that trip in 2018, said it didn't happen. I don't know who either of those is supposed to convince. So the if Stephen Miller also says it didn't happen.
Kayleigh McEnany, who is on record calling Trump a hateful racist.
Yeah.
She has said that. Kayleigh McEnany has already changed her name to Toby, essentially, and become frickin' Donald Trump's, like, willing servant. Sauron's willing servant, like doing everything, giving up any shred of dignity she might have for a title. She, before he was, and I wonder if he even knows this, called him a hateful racist.
100%, yeah.
And she's, if you ask her right now, she'll say she didn't say it.
So she didn't say it, or
she's counter, if she's lying about what she said herself, which she's on record saying, of course she's going to lie. And Steve Miller and Scavino, come on.
Exactly, yeah. So look, they both deny that it happened. Okay, so now we have to weigh the evidence. First, I mean, the fact that it's entirely consistent with everything that we've experienced would seem to indicate that it's true, but you can't go through your life assuming that. So we're going to go through the actual evidence. So the Atlantic had 4 different sources on that story. Now, they were anonymous, that's true, which if you don't like the story / are conservative means that it didn't happen, they're just being made up. That's not actually how it works. And by the way, just to clarify, they're not anonymous to the reporter. The reporter knows who they are. They're just being anonymous. Now, in this case, should they be? We'll return to that later on. But they say that they would be attacked if they were to openly come out and talk about this, which is not necessarily a good reason to not come forth, but also definitely true. So here's the thing. They immediately started attacking the story. So in addition to the 4 sources that the Atlantic has, James Laporta, who's an AP investigative reporter and a former Marine himself, tweeted, a senior Defense Department official I just spoke with confirmed this story by Jeffrey Goldberg in its entirety, especially the graphs about the late Senator John McCain and former Marine General John Kelly, President Trump's former chief of staff. Later on, he added on a second source, specifically a senior U.S. Marine Corps officer with knowledge of President real Donald Trump's comments, confirmed the Atlantic story. So that is additional multiple sources from a different outlet. But it wasn't just the AP and the Atlantic, because eventually the Washington Post got involved as well and said, a former senior administration official who, like others, spoke on the condition of anonymity to speak candidly, confirmed to the Washington Post that the president frequently made disparaging comments about veterans and soldiers missing in action, referring to them at times as losers. So that's a third outlet. But the interesting thing about the Washington Post adding on additional sources is that they also added on additional information. In one account, the president told senior advisors that he didn't understand why the U.S. government placed such value on finding soldiers missing in action, because they had performed poorly and gotten caught and deserved what they got, according to a person familiar with the discussion. Trump believed, this is another, like, that's insane. But we've got another one. Trump believed people who served in the Vietnam War must be losers because they hadn't gotten out of it. according to a person familiar with the comments. And clearly Trump will feel that way because he did get out of it, pretending he had bone spurs. So clearly anyone who didn't make up bone spurs and use their wealth to get out of serving their country must be a loser. But man, why do we search for our soldiers missing in action because they suck at their job? That should end it. It won't have any effect whatsoever. But just the fact that they denied the Atlantic story now is causing all of this additional information to come out, which makes it look even worse. I would argue that's worse than the World War I thing.
It's all the same. And this goes back to him attacking the father of a soldier who died while he was running for president the first time. Like, we've seen it, and his definition of a loser is, I would like to ask him a question, have him define what he means by that. There's a lot. So the loser aspect, they're losers because what? Like, what did it take for you to get out of the war? It took your dad owning a building that had a doctor in it. So why didn't everybody just do that? That's how he thinks. And the thing is, it boggles my mind because so many of his own supporters are fall into that category of what he would define as losers. Why do they like him? I don't understand, especially when stuff like this comes out. They are relying on Fox News to say this is false, when in reality, the things that we have him on tape saying, and for so long, and his tweet about John McCain is the same sentiment. And that was something that we can find right now and bring out for you. I don't understand.
I'm gonna.
And is he, great, and is he actively trying to keep soldiers from becoming these losers? No, he doesn't want to. He had the opportunity to end our involvement in Yemen, and he didn't. He vetoed bipartisan legislation to do that. So he's not that guy they think he is. The only thing, it is mind control. It is him just because he doesn't blink, and it's because he's pathological. He doesn't care. He's a sociopath, and he does not actually care about other people, not even a little bit, to the point where you can read it on his face that he's lying.
Yeah, exactly. And so we'll get to whether it would matter if they accepted it or if they ever could in a bit. But I want to go through a little bit more of the evidence, because we have additional confirmation. That's one sort of evidence. We also have all of the experience of, we've got a hype train coming. Nice. All of the experience of what we've seen over the past few years that is not coming from anonymous sources, that is all right out there. So in terms of the language, would he speak this way? You might recall that it's now deleted, but he had once tweeted, "I would like to extend my best wishes to all, even the haters and losers, on this special date, September 11th. You know, that's not necessarily about veterans specifically, but you get that he doesn't necessarily hold a lot of, like, the ability to venerate things or like feel humbled by the weight of history. So decency, what else do we have?
As well, like humbled. That's decency not it. It's well. Decency, the ability to revere anything other than himself.
Yeah. And in terms of his other comments and opinions and thoughts about the military, so he said visiting troops in combat zones is not overly necessary. A former senior White House official told the Washington Post that Trump is afraid of those situations. He's afraid people would want to kill him. So he doesn't think that we need to honor them by going. These aren't the dead vets. These are going to actually visit them. So he's done it incredibly sparingly as president. So you had the incredibly public feud with John McCain, with him openly saying, "I like people who weren't captured." That is effectively the same as all of this Atlantic stuff. And he did it in public, and they didn't care about that either. Then when John McCain died in August 2018, Trump told his senior staff, according to 3 sources with direct knowledge of this event, "We're not going to support that loser's funeral." And he became furious when he saw flags lowered to half staff. What the F are we doing that for? Guy was an effing loser. This feud was entirely out in the open. We might have some new details from the Atlantic story, but we saw all of this operating. And even way after John McCain had died, he continues to make unnecessary digs at him, including, and this is a great one, from Daniel Dale, and really the stolen valor is amazing. Trump's specific argument against John McCain on veterans issues: McCain, Trump has said, failed to get veterans' choice passed, while he, Trump, did get it passed. It was John McCain's initiative signed into law in 2014. He says, McCain failed on this, I succeeded, when it was passed before he was president, and it was John McCain's bill, which is just amazing. Just amazing. So we got more, but feel free. What's going on?
What does he think the Veterans Choice Bill is?
He has no idea.
What is this thing that he thinks he passed into law that was literally John McCain's bill? I don't know. This needs to be a big story for a very, very 60-day long time.
Exactly. And the thing is, we have other, like his attempt to pretend that he has empathy. Do you remember Maisha Johnson, the widow of one of our soldiers lost abroad? Trump called her to make her feel better, I guess. That was the idea. It didn't happen, since Trump, according to her, couldn't remember my husband's name. And he also said to her that LaDavid, the lost soldier, quote, knew what he had signed up for. And so you might think, well, that's according to her. That's what happened on the call. But the thing is, Trump's feud with the widow of a fallen soldier didn't stay on the phone call. He continued it in public, tweeting, "I had a very respectful conversation with the widow of Sergeant LaDavid Johnson and spoke his name from beginning without hesitation," calling her a liar because he hadn't done enough damage to her in the private call. He had to take it public, and she was, of course, incredibly harassed after that. Brett already referred to the feud he had with Kaiser Khan. So following a critical speech by Kaiser Khan, whose son, Captain Humayun Khan, was killed during the Iraq War back in 2004, Trump said, "If you look at his wife, she was standing there. She had nothing to say. Maybe she wasn't allowed to have anything to say," which was, I'm assuming, was an incredibly Islamophobic attack against these two parents that had lost their kid. The mother said that she didn't trust herself to speak at this event because despite the fact that her son had fallen so many years before, having to talk about this, knowing that Trump might become the commander-in-chief, would have caused her to break down, so she chose not to speak. But he mocked them in that way publicly. And I just got one more. So in terms of sacrifice and what makes you a loser, a sucker, what sorts of sacrifices are worth it, Trump also took on Khan's criticism about sacrifices, saying he had made, quote, a lot of sacrifices. Pressed by George Stephanopoulos of examples of those, he said he had created thousands and thousands of jobs and built great structures, which George Stephanopoulos noted, and many other people did, is not an example of sacrifices, but also not out of the ordinary for his family, because Don Jr., talking about his trip to Arlington National Cemetery, said he got emotional about the sacrifices those soldiers had committed and said that he too had committed sacrifices, voluntarily giving up a huge chunk of their business and their international deals. It was a big sacrifice, costing us millions and millions of dollars. So this whole family is sick. It's rotten to its core. Maybe Don Jr. has the capacity for some sort of empathy, but it has been trained out of him by his father. And everything about this reporting from The Atlantic, Trump has been trying to convince us that this is how he views the troops for literally years. The idea that we would reject it now makes absolutely no sense.
It's very obvious, all the things that are happening. How do we communicate this to, like, Trump supporters? Does it matter to them? Like, things they believe to be true. I believe that they think this is true, that Donald Trump is a great leader of their side who, when he says he makes sacrifices, they believe it. Like, no, all of it is, you say it's a sacrifice, but it's an investment. It's an investment in your company. Oh, my sacrifice to give up portions of it. What portions? Show me. And then also, like, so you're telling me that your overall brand, in your opinion, when you entered into this, your overall brand for the Trump administration, and it will be hurt by you and your dad becoming president of the United States and first bastard. Like, is that it? You honestly want people to believe that that is a sacrifice? It isn't. And building great structures, like this, the result is a building. How is that a sacrifice? That's the core of your business. No, you just want people to think it's a sacrifice because all you do is lie to people all day, every day. And I just don't think they can lie about this. And I think we need to think about it as like bursting people's bubbles. Find out where that information bubble is of people that you know, and just get this in front of them, this article and all the supporting materials. Just burst their bubble because that's what they're living in. And the right has invested so much money in completely walling off information from their supporters, and we need to like drop pamphlets into their East Germany.
That's good. That's more historical knowledge than Trump has about what happened during that time. So I feel like we disagree a little bit about how likely this is to have an effect. So let's briefly talk about that. And I want to show one more clip. The sources so far on the Atlantic's article about Trump calling dead soldiers suckers and losers, so far it is anonymous. It's coming from multiple different sources to multiple different outlets, confirmed by multiple different journalists who have had good records their entire career. But should they come forward? So here's a little bit of Brian Stelter making the case for why they should.
This done. Normally the denials from the president and his aides would carry some weight, but for 3.5 years the White House has squandered its credibility to the point where its words are essentially worthless and the denials mean very little. Jeffrey Goldberg is the top editor of The Atlantic, one of the most respected journalists in Washington. He has sources at high levels who have been confiding in him for years. So this has to be taken seriously, as your panel just said, and other outlets are starting to match this. I think, Don, we have to keep, the White House's credibility in mind when we cover this, but it is also incumbent on the sources, on the people that are talking to Goldberg, on the people that are talking to other outlets. The president's denying it explicitly. So it's put up or shut up time. It is September 3rd. The election is in 2 months. What are these figures doing where they are insisting on anonymity when we know so many people have already left the government? There are so many former Trump officials who are no longer in government.
So, Brett, should they come forward? Would coming forward make a difference? But first, should they? Is there some sort of obligation to?
So right now, you're framing it in a way that I think is unnecessary.
What's that?
Well, right now you're saying like you're opening up the framing for it, and so is Stelter, that if they don't, it somehow undercuts the credibility of the story. You're right. And it's fine, and I get that that's why you're asking it and all that stuff. But so no, they don't have to. They don't have to. This is how journalism works. And so many, and this is also how Trump journalism works, because Trump's favorite anonymous source is a lot of people. And I'm going to search through the Social Security records to find if there was ever someone born named Lotta People, because that must be it. Otherwise, he's just also pulling anonymous sources out of his ass. And that's it.
Yeah. I think you're right. Even bringing it up is sort of implying that it is not 100% credible when, look, those sources could be verified sources that in this case lied, I guess. Multiple people could have done that, I suppose. I would argue it doesn't matter because what he has said publicly should have done all of the work that this new story hypothetically could accomplish. I will say, though, anonymous sources are not obligated to come forward. There are reasons, especially in America, to not want to come forward publicly. His base is insane. They're out of their minds, and some of them are violent. But I would also say it wouldn't matter. Like, if all 4 of those sources came forward and they were, 5-star generals and served under multiple presidents, like, what's going to happen? Is Tucker going to say, oh, well, in that case,
no, they're absolutely not. I absolutely agree. They're calling Joe Biden a radical. Okay, so that ship has sailed. And then also, there was a letter that came out from 150 or 71, I forget, one of those numbers of generals and high-ranking officials who said Donald Trump is terrible. Mm-hmm. He has a huge disapproval rating among the military.
Yeah,
they feel it. They know it. They don't support him. And so, also, how else are you going to get information like this? As soon as those names come out, then those people, and I believe, due to my faith in journalism, that and also cross-referencing against what you said, where like it shouldn't matter. This is in the stuff that's already out there is damning. This is just a reminder of that. If we get rid of all the decent decent human beings in the Trump administration, then we remove the ability of those decent human beings to report on the indecency happening within the Trump administration.
Yeah. Yeah, but the only thing I would add is let's acknowledge that decency in this case might not necessarily mean would pursue policy or regulation outcomes that we would agree with. It might just be reports on horrendous quotes that are said. But yeah, maybe. And look, I think these quotes are pretty bad. I mean, it's not quite as effective as some, the McCain comment from 2016 or the, grab them by the, all of that, because that was actually on tape. You could hear it. But Biden already has an ad up with these quotes. And when you start to mash them up with some of the things he's actually said, it could be effective for some people. I just question how much. Like, I don't, at the end of the day, believe that, Kayleigh McEnany's doing her job, I guess, but that all the rest don't really believe it. They might say that, but what's the difference whether they believe it or not when they wouldn't care if they knew it was true? If an audio tape came out of Trump saying it, what defections would there be? What would it actually change? And I just, at this point, I don't see why it would change anything.
If you want my hard, cynical analysis of this, it is just you got to get the margins. You're chipping away at the margins.
Yeah, maybe.
Do ad buys among older voters in Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Ohio, North Carolina, and you just don't stop. That's what swift voting was. Unfortunately, that was all BS, and this is actually based on stuff that we have. But if you can get a false message to resonate and give people pause, you can get a true message to resonate and make people realize what a monster this is.
Maybe.
And then also, the rest of that the cynical part of it is like, and then add that, Biden is a better communicator than Hillary Clinton in terms of something that is the core of this argument, which is empathy and decency. He's a better communicator than Clinton was with that. Plus, the extremely cynical part, he's a guy who's white. So that can get through, I think, just raising the base level given how America tends to be since, the 1400s.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. Let's read some super chats before we jump into our next topic. Atomic Mime says, someone in Invasion of the Body Snatchers described the pod person as having no emotion, just the pretense of it. This perfectly describes Trump talking about, quote, our brave men and women serving in the military. Yeah. He just doesn't have the capacity. Rachel Rhodes, thank you for your OP. I've never seen that emoji before. I love that one. Let's see. Yarmul says, enjoy your long weekend, John and Brett. Thank you. Yeah, I guess it is. It's a 3-day weekend for everyone. That's nice. Crystal Flores says,
justice, John.
What's that?
Not a 3-day weekend for justice, John.
I think justice has been on break for quite a while in America, but Crystal says, Trump comes from a long line of draft dodgers. His family simply does not value war service. Fred Trump was stripped of his Bavarian citizenship for avoiding serving. His dad, Fred Trump, dodged World War II. I didn't know either of that. I wouldn't be shocked. They clearly don't value it. John T says, they like him because you don't understand. You are confounded, and they can imagine any narrative they like to validate their lack of ideology and intellectual effort. Feels. Yeah, it's feelings trumping facts or statements or whatever. Let's see. Mijnendon Bart, I apologize. I definitely mispronounced that, but thank you for your super chat saying, being from Europe, who don't forget the disrespect you guys are showing to your own history, and when to this day respect your fallen soldiers. And I'm only 47 years old, but I have my freedom because of these fallen soldiers. Thank you for that. Appreciate it. Obi-Mom Kenobi has gifted 10 tier 1 subs. Thank you, Obi-Mom Kenobi.
That hype train came into the stage.
Yeah, that was a big one.
It was a huge level 5, multiple hundreds of percents. It seems like when I'm around, the hype train.
Seems like it.
High bullet trains, John.
Do you know how we got there, though? Okay, yes, Obi-Wan Kenobi, but also Pinkerbell Pixie, Kelly June, Kodo Mega O, and Kim Sushi also gifting subs. Thank you so much to all of you.
Kodo Omega gave 5 tiered 1 subs after thrashing us in game night last night.
Yep.
Good.
Game night was fun. Everyone needs to watch those.
Obi-Mom tiered many bits as well. Hype train might as well do it all the way. Gang.
Nice. Court for Jester says, what's that?
And I do say John's Venn diagram of desire also helps.
Court for Jester likes Brett's mood lighting in Twitch. We also have Semper Fire Dog saying, I am a U.S. Marine, and hearing the Commander-in-Chief say that all of us that died in war are losers is disgusting. We need to revolt and remove this cancer from our country. That's mostly true. To be fair, he doesn't think that all of the people who died in war are losers. He thinks that former Confederate soldiers were heroes. That's the exception he'll make. Okay, Galfar asks, hey, TYT, if we get 2,000 likes for the TDR today, can we get a Brook sighting from you? Maybe even a Brook dance. And
Wife, put on your face.
She says I don't have my face on. That's on you guys. I don't have control of that. I will try to bring dogs again in the future. Everyone who stuck around to the end of yesterday's show got a dog sighting in studio. Now, that said, Nightbot is shouting, put your face on. How is Nightbot doing that?
It's a command.
Okay, you have a command for that. Okay, with that, time is quickly running out, and we have to fit in as much as we can before we take out the garbage. So let's jump to this now. Since the multiple fatal shootings in Kenosha, we've been worried about possible copycats, especially considering that the right hasn't really done much to denounce that domestic terrorist and has instead implied that people who go to other states with firearms, whether illegally obtained or not, to defend someone else's property and possibly get into self-defense situations is kind of a heroic thing. And we apparently narrowly avoided a potential copycat incident like that. So on Tuesday, the Kenosha Police Department advised the FBI that a law enforcement agency in Iowa had received a tip that suspects Michael Carmo and an unidentified male later identified as Cody Smith were in possession of firearms and traveling from Missouri to Kenosha to loot and, quote, possibly pick people off. A news release says that the two, Carmo and Smith, told agents they, quote, wanted to see proof of the rioting and were planning to drive to Portland, Oregon next, saying they were willing to, quote, take action if police were defunded. I think we know what they mean there, and they certainly were armed for it. FBI agents recovered an Armory AR-15 assault rifle, a Mossberg 500 AB 12-gauge shotgun, 2 handguns, a silencer, ammunition, body armor, a drone, and other materials. So we have more information about them, but they were going to be heavily armed, specifically going there after telling people that they were looking to loot, pick people off, and take action if the police wouldn't.
That's so weird that they would say, like, we're gonna find these rioters, see if they're rioting, then we're gonna loot. So, like, what is the division there? Like,
they're mad at the looters and they want to do it.
You would become a looter. So maybe we want to confirm that there's looting happening, so we'll loot and then we'll shoot everybody. But, like, okay. The decent take a step back, look at this. Donald Trump has told these people to go do this. Like, Donald Trump, by saying that he supports the shooter in Kenosha, has said, yeah, everybody else do this.
Yeah.
That is the green light that he has given. And really, to sum it up, like, Donald Trump has essentially said before, I could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue, shoot people, and get away with it. His new message is, yeah, take some guns, go down to Fifth Avenue and shoot people. I'll let you get away with it.
Yeah, exactly. And to give you just a little bit more information about these individuals and help us to assess how likely actual violence was, Carmo reportedly told agents that he and Smith had been roommates in Missouri for about 4 weeks, that they worked together and are part of an organization called the 417 Second Amendment Militia. Carmo reportedly said the two decided to travel to Kenosha to see for themselves. Now, in terms of prior crimes, because, you know, I know that in America, technically, you're only supposed to dig into the past of people who've been fatally shot by the police, but we're going to do it in this case with the militia members as well. Carmo has prior convictions, including for burglary, possession of a controlled substance, receiving stolen property, and evading a law enforcement officer resulting in injury or death. Smith has a prior misdemeanor domestic battery conviction in California and acknowledged regular drug use. As a result, both Carmo and Smith were prohibited from possessing firearms and ammunition. As a result of that, they are facing multiple charges that, in theory, could land them in jail for years or possibly decades, with fines of about $250,000 or more. Who knows if it'll come to that? I don't know how much evidence the FBI and the ATF have. They're apparently working on this, but it certainly looks like they were going there to commit some crimes. You don't generally like, I need to bring my AR-15 for self-defense. Better bring a silencer. I don't know if that generally makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. They also said they were going to do it.
To pick people off.
They were going to take action.
Yeah. Yeah, and the pick people off is even more explicit.
The tip said that they were going to possibly pick people off. So I don't know if they said that, but it says like they were going to take action if police were defunded. They're going to do these terrible things. So Joe Biden has condemned this kind of behavior. Donald Trump has not. He's done the opposite. He's emboldened it and told people to actually go do it. So pick your president. Pick your president. And the defunding the police thing is ridiculous. Like, if they were defunded, and these guys don't even believe in that. We all need to stop this. Now, I'm also going to say, does this represent all people who are voting for Donald Trump? No. The same way I don't believe that all the people, anyone who is lighting things on fire and shooting in the streets, I don't think they're representative of most people in America. And not even most of the protesters. Like, the protests that have happened are wildly peaceful, largely peaceful. You have photos of from drones of entire streets filled with people in the middle of the day just having exercising their First Amendment rights. Of course, this doesn't represent the vast majority of people, but what Trump wants to do is cherry pick who represents most people. And this he won't ever allow to represent his folks, but he's still not going to give ground on whether they're right or wrong. But he still wants to vilify everybody who thinks that Black Lives Matter and say that they're all rioters and looters when that is just absolutely, provably not the case.
Yeah. And so, good on whoever initiated the process of these two getting caught. I mean, it obviously involved the FBI, some local Iowa law enforcement, and the Kenosha Police Department. See? Sometimes they do good things, and we can acknowledge that. I don't know exactly who. It's possible that another member of that gang that they were a part of might have spoken to someone. I don't know. Maybe we'll find out more. But yeah, these were caught. These two people. It is as simple as going and buying an assault rifle and a shotgun and driving to one of these cities if that's what you want to do. So cross your fingers that they catch all of them. I mean, one already got through, and he was operating illegally. But that's what we're hoping for, is that all of these people who are being radicalized and sent out, not, by these dark internet forums, but by watching Tucker Carlson and other Fox News shows, we're just hoping that all of the gang members that are being radicalized by that will be caught. And by the way, Kim Sushi in the Twitch chat has a great comment saying, murder is an appropriate response for property damage, but property damage is an inappropriate response for murder. That's apparently the philosophy that we're operating with. And it's 100% true. Okay, let's see. Really fast, couple super chats. Stephanie Carr says, super chat for Brooke. Happy half hours with her are my favorite. Brett is a lucky guy. That's very nice, Stephanie.
And whatever.
She's okay. Alexi Pappas, thank you for your super chat. And Yellow One as well. Love it. Nicholas Silva says, Brett, I miss Infomania.
Oh, that got me. Me
That is
too.
something.
That's where we first displayed the Tales of a Minor League cable sensation. It might have been Campaign Update, but I don't remember one of those two in that era. Thank you so much.
Nick Just Me says, my ex-husband about Trump, quote, Trump's not racist, I'm racist, and I don't like what he's done to help black people, so he's not racist. This is the kind of logic we're fighting. That's how Trumpers think. Woo! Good on you for that being an ex. Raymond says, I am a Navy dad. Both my sons are in the Navy, and they are the best part of my life. They are not suckers and losers. President Bone Spurs, where are your sons? And by the way, nobody has an obligation to serve. I would argue, and by the way, I sometimes think that America's, over-the-top veneration of soldiers generally can be fairly cynical. Like, I think that a lot of, over the past 20 years especially, a lot of what politicians have said about soldiers has been designed not to properly venerate them, but to justify ever-expanding military budgets and military engagements. But, I mean, there is a huge amount of room between that sort of performative patriotism and calling all of the dead suckers and losers. Now that said, Misty Bowers says, it makes me so angry that he degrades our military who is willing to die for us, and he is a draft dodger, which in my opinion should disqualify him from being able to be president. Trump, say thank you. Look, I don't even necessarily agree. I think that there were plenty of good reasons for people to have avoided certain military engagements because they thought that it was 100% illegitimate, and we're probably right. But Donald Trump's argument for why he did, for first of all, how he did that and why he did it, is horrendous. And then to talk about his own personal Vietnam of evading STDs, like fleeing because you are a conscientious objector is one thing. Wanting to spend that time chasing people in clubs in Manhattan is kind of different, I feel like. Anyway, okay, with that, let's jump into just a little conversation. Here we go. About the pandemic. Buckle up.
Hold on to your butts. I got to say it because you were drinking water.
That's mine. Damn it. Okay. We are now 6 months into the pandemic and lockdowns of a variety of sorts. I don't know exactly where you're living, what the state of that might be. LA had locked down really hard and then opened up, and we're fairly locked down again. I don't know when that's going to change, but I know that we're all wondering. And I'm in my own bubble. The bubble is this big empty building, but I saw a poll recently about what America at large thinks about the pandemic and when things are going to get back to normal, and I found it fascinating. So when polled on how long it'll take, about 2% believe it'll be either less than 2 weeks or up to a month. So effectively nobody believes that by October we'll be done. 15% think it'll take 2 to 3 months. 44% think it'll take at least 6 months, and 27% of the public thinks things will never get back to normal. Brett, what do you think about that?
So I love reading polls.
Never.
The 2 to 3 months is made up probably of a lot of people who are Trump supporters who think that as soon as Biden wins, everyone's going to completely flip around and be like, yo, it's over now. We finally fixed it, like immediately. So that's why that has a bump. The 6 months or more, I think, is the most like it exists because people are, and this is just me speculating, but like people saying it's been 6 months. I have no idea how long that feels like even. So
No.
I'm sure it'll happen for a while. And add to that people who are saying things like, well, I hear that's about maybe when we won't for the next 6 months have a vaccine or any way to really combat it. So something like this will continue. But the 27% that say it's never going to get back to normal, like I get that because a long and 6 months or more might as well be forever. Plus, a lot of things that the black swan events, essentially the seismic shifts as a result of some random thing happening to the world, it won't ever get back to normal. There are many ways to interpret that mean it will never get back to normal. Will you ever feel safe going out in a crowd again? Like I'm watching shows that were filmed in the past and people are hugging each other and they're like at sporting events. I'm watching the playoffs and I'm like, I would never want to go be in one of those places again because I just don't want to get it and I don't want to contribute to spreading it. So there are many ways to look at this, and they all kind of make sense.
Yeah, I feel some of that too, and it's the most stereotypical thing. But yeah, watching old shows at how carefree we were was weird. But look, I think the people who say 6 months or more are being, I think, realistic. I think that that's a realistic estimate, but I think things will get back to normal. We will remember this. How could we not? A year of our life effectively being taken away in large part. We'll remember. We'll do our best to try to explain to younger generations who hopefully won't experience this, depending on how things go. But I think that things will get back to normal. I think that at some point we're going to have big crowds. At some point people are going to be walking around the mall. At some point I'm going to be at Gen Con again. I have to imagine that at some point, like think about how much has been normalized in the last 6 months. 6 months of relative peace of coronavirus not being a big issue, and eventually it won't be. I think that can become normalized again. I have to assume that. I have to assume that at some point we'll be in movie theaters and there will be stores. I don't know. Does that seem crazy? I feel like it's got to happen.
Well, I think okay. the longer something like this occurs, the more of an opportunity the replacement industries and supply chain elements have an opportunity to entrench themselves. So it'll be a longer amount of time that those shifts can be in place. That like, what are you going to do if you're a mom and pop shop that had to close? And there are many mom and pop shops that have to close. In the meantime, the folks who don't want to leave their house to go even support that, and who are losing their ability to pay the slightly higher price for acting local, as it were. Like, in the meantime, Amazon's able to make those remote distribution, like non-brick and mortar solutions, a way of life that people who hadn't maybe tried them before now have to learn how to try them.
Maybe
realize it's that convenient, etc.
Yeah, maybe invest accordingly. Anyway, but not today. Things are really chaotic. Anyway, okay, Brett, do you know what time it is?
Game time.
What time of the week it is?
Time to get live. Time to represent.
Skip, are we ready for this? And that let me toss to it. But are we ready to go? I think we got it, right? Yeah, I see a thumb. Okay. Got my can. I'm happy to have my can. I really got to get those big googly eyes. It is the end of the week, and so it's time to take out the trash. Okay, so garbage people of the week time. I forgot this time to ask Brett who is going to go first, so I'm going to go first. You know what? I think that's probably how Skip is thinking about this. So my garbage person, look, there's a lot, and there's a very good case to be made that Donald Trump should be the garbage person for his comments about our vets, but we already talked about that, so I'm going to bring up a new one. It is a person who should have been in here basically every week for the past few months, and that is Marjorie Taylor Greene, if you can see. But why? That's why, because she posted that image on her Facebook account, and that image of her posing with a gun against 3 congresswomen is bad enough. The idea that she's their worst nightmare because she has a rifle is made worse by the caption. So here's what she wrote next to that. Hate America leftists want to take this country down. Politicians have failed this country. I'm tired of seeing weak establishment Republicans play defense. Our country is on the line. America needs fighters who speak the truth. We need strong conservative Christians to go on the offense against these socialists who want to rip our country apart. America must take our country back, save America, stop socialism, defeat the Democrats. And it says at the bottom, Marjorie, see less, but it doesn't work because I kept clicking it and she still wouldn't go away. So I'm going to put her in the trash while we continue. Definitely belongs there for the implied threat of violence, not necessarily from her, but implying that good Christians need to go on the offense against her. I also love that they have had the presidency, they have the Senate, they have the Supreme Court, but it will never be enough. They still always need to take their country back, even though they have virtually all of the power over it. Isn't that weird how that works out? But yeah, her posing next to these 3 congresswomen and implying that they've stolen America and we need to take the offense against them in a time when Trump supporters are already committing acts of violence in cities around the country. That's just about as irresponsible a thing as I can imagine for someone who wants to be their colleague in the House and very likely will in just a few months.
She's a militant. She's an armed militant extremist.
Yeah.
Fact. You can't do that. Like, I get it. It looks stupid. It looks like a porno cover. Like, it looks dumb. She sucks. She's a crazy QAnon conspiracy theorist who gets her, she's going to make laws, but right now she gets most of her legal advice from memes.
Yep.
Right? Like, oh, God, like, there will be no serifs on the bills she gives in. I wonder if they're going to change the format necessary to just be like, you have to have 5G somewhere in the bill. Is that who the next round of extremist, militant Trump supporters are? We have to beat Trump. We have to run up the score. We have to run them out of town at the ballot box. So
100%.
Vote early. Vote
early.
Vote as much as you can, as effectively as you can. Not as much as you can, but as many of you need to vote as possible, and you need to vote effectively.
Yeah, and look, I also want to give a little more information because we haven't talked about her all that much on the show. But lurking behind and implying to me the even more than just the imagery, the threat of violence. In June, Politico uncovered hours of video in which Green expressed racist, Islamophobic, and anti-Semitic views, including one video in which she said that Muslims do not belong in government, that's just putting it out there. Notably, if you don't know, Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib are both Muslim. Green said that the 2018 midterms, in which a diverse set of candidates won elections, was part of an Islamic invasion of our government. She also said anyone that is a Muslim that believes in Sharia law does not belong in government. And she has promoted the fringe QAnon conspiracy theory multiple times, including once calling Q, who's totally an individual, the so-called leader of the movement, a patriot. So in 2018, those congresswomen that she put up there invaded our government. It's an Islamic invasion of our government, and they're not legitimate. They don't belong there. So now conservatives need to take the offense against them. And oh, whoops, I'm holding an AR-15. Isn't it weird how that works out?
I love the concept of a crazy invasion, you would say. It's illegal. It's a hostile invasion. And the way that she wants to get a similar job is also to be voted in. Like, how do you invade? You asked people and they said, yeah, you.
Yeah. Can't believe that multiple QAnon supporters are going to be voting on laws and calling witnesses, and they're going to have time to ask questions of people who come before our government. Marjorie Taylor Greene is going to be asking about lizard people and stuff like that.
They're going to get in there, John, and when they get in there, they're probably going to have access to some stuff that proves beyond a shadow of a doubt that Q does not exist and everything they're saying is absolute horse hockey. Do you think they'll have a time when do you think there'll be a time when they're like, never mind? Because there's a difference between them and Trump. Like, Trump is not a true believer. Trump takes advantage of true believers. And I think that there's going to be some of these QAnon folk who just like believe that this is absolutely true, right?
I don't know. We'll see. Who do you have for us this week?
All right, I have a unveiling something. The monster box. Arr.
Arr.
Arr. You said googly eyes. We just have this from the days of the cat. We've got to feed the monster box.
Does the monster box eat garbage?
Eats garbage. Or they eat garbage. And it's Officer Teensy Pee-Pee. Officer Teensy Pee-Pee. I guess I'll wait until the end. Stay hungry. Stay alive, no matter what occurs. Okay, so Officer Teensy Pee-Pee is an officer in Kenosha, Wisconsin, who was trying to get a woman who seems to be a reporter to leave after curfew. And he starts asking her nicely, and she nicely responds until he starts to be more of a jerk. And it seems like he arrests her when she says he might have a small penis. Enjoy.
I'm going to ask you one more time. Pick up your stuff and stuff. What I'm telling you is that you just got arrested last night, and you're putting us in a difficult position every time. Just don't be out here after curfew. We don't want to deal with it.
Goodbye.
There's nothing to report anyway. There's nothing what we were trying to show her.
Well, how long does it take? What is it?
There's been nobody out here for a couple hours. Right, but after curfew, like from 6 o'clock on, there's been nobody here. Ma'am, keep walking.
I'm going 397. I'm walking. Don't touch me. Don't touch me. I'm walking. You don't need to touch me. I'm walking. You don't need to touch me. At this point, you're just showing all of us how little your is. I'm out.
You're under arrest.
For what?
Disorderly conduct and curfew.
I'm not. You've got 4. Don't touch me. I haven't done anything.
She's under arrest.
For what? For what? I haven't done anything. I'm not doing anything. He's
Calm
like
down.
waiting for this.
Calm down, okay?
It seems,
God.
John, that she was a big shout out to Trashy Plays for suggesting that. On Sunday nights, I go on Twitch for the most part, and you can send it. We discuss what we should cover on that following Monday's show. So, guys, we'll do that on Sunday nights at Twitch. So you go on there when you get notifications, become a subscriber, at least follow, and you'll get to know all that stuff. But Trashy was like this, and he was right. This is
That's a good one.
This is Officer Teensy Pee-Pee of the Kenosha PPD, and amazing. I love it so much because it is exactly what you would assume would happen. Like, She's out there, and they're talking about how she has a press badge on. She's covering all this stuff. She's obviously, there's no one around. And there's an extra little level of this where she is proving that, like, Kenosha's not always on fire. Like, it is after curfew, and the main area that she's in is totally peaceful, and there's no one around. And we need people to kind of show that that is the case, because actively the other side is trying to paint Kenosha, Portland, and other cities as these lawless dens of anarchy and terror, when really they're not. Like, the head of the Portland Fire Department came out and was like, "We're not ablaze. Everybody calm down."
Yeah, 100%. And that's necessary because, where a lot of America is getting their news about this is like Tucker Carlson. It's literally, I think it was Parker Malloy that identified, they spend hours playing footage of fires. And if they don't have new footage, which in a lot of these cases they don't, they use, like, Tucker Carlson last night was playing video of a fire from May 30th, months ago. But if you're just tuning in, you're like, oh my God, it's on fire. They're talking about Portland. They're talking about Chicago. They're talking about Kenosha. I guess it must be on fire. And so, yeah, they're totally manipulating it. And look, we laugh about this interaction because, hey, look, it's the cop who got, sensitive about his penis and all that. But this is also a cop who feels, and might well be correct to feel, that he can arrest reporters for any reason he wants, including them just saying something, knowing that they're filming him and apparently not caring, because cops seem to have become totally immunized against concern about their actions being shown. He believed, if you don't respect my authority, I can arrest you. And this is a time in our country where we have to decide whether that's true or not. Do you get to tell a cop that they have a small dick, or don't you? And if you do, can they arrest you? Can they brutalize you? Can they kill you? This is all being played out on the streets of America, not necessarily all simultaneously, but we really do have to decide what the relationship between the cops and the people they're supposed to be protecting and serving is going to be. Can they drive through us? Can they beat us? Can they tase us? Can they arrest us for talking about their genitals? These are important questions for America to consider as we go into the next 4 years.
Yep. And so, in keeping with that, feeding the monster box, Prince TCPP.
Unfortunately, with this cop, it was but a small meal. An amuse-bouche, really. Anyway, okay, so...
amuse-douche.
Dun, dun.
I'm just going to go.
Okay. You know what? That's how we should start one of our shows, is within a quick an amuse-douche. Usually like an anti-masker. We're going to do that now, actually. I like that. Okay, so what about the community, though? This is just Brett and me, okay? And as with on game night last night, we found out that the audience can and will often overrule us. So what is the Dragon Squad garbage person of the week? Let's see how the voting went. Okay, so it looks like we've got, with 4.7 thousand votes, the winner, with 48% of the vote, a relatively close one, is Trump's COVID-19 advisor, Scott Atlas, for pushing a herd immunity strategy that would kill hundreds of thousands, if not a couple of million people. At 34% and coming in second, the fundraising site Give Send Go for raising money for Kyle Rittenhouse. Geez. 7% of the vote, you have Laura Ingraham for acting as Trump's bumper in their interview. Oh, protecting him from some of his comments. At 6%, you have Steve Scalise for showing a doctored video of the Medicare for All activist, Eddie Barkan. And at 4% of the vote, you've got whoever's running Herman Cain's Twitter account. Those are all great choices, but Trump, his advisor, has taken away. Good selection there, Dragon Squad. Appreciate that. Can't forget that they are pursuing that. They're still doing that. Everything that we said today is true and awful, but they are still just trying to let the virus spread unchecked across America.
So this guy, Scott Atlas, he's from the Hoover Institute, which I worked at for a summer.
Really?
Hoover Institution. It's at Stanford. It's I
didn't know that.
It is the worst bastion. Like, Stanford has one president, and it was Herbert Hoover, who sent America into the Great Depression. And the Hoover Institute is essentially like all the conservative thinkers you could imagine get together and find ways to give the president ultimate authority. I work for this guy named Terry Moe, who's an expert on like I didn't know this. I was like, I need a job to pay so I could do a play this summer. So like I got paid to do research and stuff. And I was researching teachers unions. And this guy's goal was to get rid of teachers unions, get teachers not to get paid for anything, and start charter schools across America nonstop, no holds barred. And that's what they get paid to do. This guy, Scott Atlas, is not an epidemiologist. He's like a neuroradiologist or something like that. He looks at x-rays of the brain. He does not know anything about how diseases are spread outside of what any pediatrician might know, and probably less at this point. At the Hoover Institute, their job is to give presidents ultimate power over anyone. Congress, the judiciary, no. The high power of the executive is their goal, and Scott Atlas has been plucked from them to be an MD when really he has no clue what he's talking about.
Yeah, 100%. And a great choice there. Good job, audience. And with that, Brett, appreciate you joining us, closing out the week. And everyone should know next week, we don't have a show Monday because, you know, it's holiday and everything. Tuesday through Friday, we will have shows. I'm going to be off recuperating a little bit, but we are going to have awesome guest hosts and co-hosts. Brett is going to be holding down the Friday show, and Brett is going to be joined by, I believe the idea is Ben Dixon.
Oh,
I'm not sure if that's been confirmed, but that's the idea. But you're going to have Anna and Francesca and Adrian and JR and Emma and Michael and a whole bunch of awesome people who are going to be doing the show. So it should be a lot of fun, arguably better than usual, but don't tell me if that ends up being the case. All of that said, Brett, thank you for joining us. We're going to be doing Common Room together later on tonight, right?
Couples Room.
Brett and I and our awesome wives are going to be doing an episode of Common Room, so definitely go follow at twitch.tv/TYT and you'll get a notification about that. Brett, thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. And for all of you at home, let's go through a few more comments. Kimberly Landon saying garbage box made me so happy. Me too. I had forgotten about that. Let's see. Lisa Payton says 2K likes, John. Dog sighting a must. I think that's what summoned the monster box, actually. Unfortunately, none of my dogs are here today. Apologies. And we were hoping for a Brooke sighting, but unfortunately Brooke apparently is predisposed. Brian Brokaw says, John, where has host Brooke been? Haven't seen her in a good while. Hope she's good. I mean, she's working. She's doing awesome things. Like, she's been doing stuff with Fox Soul, and you can definitely follow her on Twitter and Instagram. She's doing amazing work. Great analysis of what's been going on in the election and all of that. Peace be Apun says, you two are like magical unicorns together. Thank you. Not enough people recognize that. I appreciate somebody finally doing it. Jamie Brown says in 2018, talking about Trump, he called the Paralympic Games tough to watch. So it's not far-fetched to believe that Trump did not want amputees in those parades. Yeah, I'd forgotten about that. Man, the stuff we've forgotten is so much worse than the things that should be true that we'd remember. Let's see. Derek Bain says, enjoy your Labor Day, everyone. I hope that you all do. Everyone has deserved a good holiday to recover. Stephen Samuel says, vote early, vote off. Vote once. Don't listen to Donald. 100%. Everybody, pay attention to the law. Cajun Girl says, Trump dodged because he is a coward, not because he was against war. He promotes war and violence as long as someone else is doing the dying. 100%. And the expansion of some of our Middle East wars over the past year has been absolutely dreadful. The Uper Gardener has gifted 10 Tier 1 subs to TYT's community. Wow, Uper. Thank you for that. And participating last night as well. Had a lot of fun doing that. John's Venn diagram of desire says, good morning, fellow Dragon Squad members. Today is my 10-year wedding anniversary, and the hubs forgot and was mean to me this morning when I woke him up to go to work. 2020 can suck it. I'm so over this year. Looking forward to John and Brett making me smile, laugh, and cry today. I am so sorry for you, John's Venn diagram of desire, both for having to deal with 2020 and also for that experience. Hopefully it will be made up for a little bit later on. But thank you for watching. We do appreciate that, and we hope that we made your day a little bit better. Socrates Bartender says, is it just me, or does waking up each day during the Trump administration feel like being the guy that picked the wrong day to quit Vice? Yeah, it's tough. It's tough to have that extra headspace to deal with extra stuff when you have this as sort of your baseline. Callus Cat says, if he wins re-election, I'll be running the underground, helping the Dragon Squad to get into Canada because the border will still be closed. Perhaps. I appreciate that. See you soon. Daniel Din says this cop equals Cartman. Respect my authority. Yeah, unfortunately. It's supposed to be just a cartoon. It's not supposed to be real. Let's see. And Dranoa says, enjoy your holiday, John. It's been well earned. Thank you for the hard work. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Everyone, thank you for watching. We've got a lot planned, both with Common Room tonight. You've got Happy Half Hour coming up a little bit later on. And like I said, an awesome week of guest hosts that should be a lot of fun. So definitely don't miss a minute of that. I'm going to try to recover. Hopefully by the time I come back, I'm going to be a little bit healthier physically and mentally. We'll see. Until then, though, stay safe out there. Stay sane out there. I'll see you soon.